All right, so I think we get started. Welcome everyone to this webinar. I'm glad to see so many participants joining. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you all, wherever you're based. I'm seeing many hellos from different regions in the world. It's great that you're with us and that you're taking the time to join us as we talk about SIYB going digital. So I'm very much looking forward to the next hour and 15 minutes. We still have a couple of new participants pouring in here and there, but I think the majority is there. So yeah, a very warm welcome from me and from all of our panelists whom I'll be introducing in a moment. So my name is Marlene and I have the pleasure of taking you through this webinar today and to host as we go along with the different items that we have for you today. And so just to start off with a very brief introduction, I think what's safe to say is that for all of us, this has been a challenging and unusual and a really interesting 6 months. And I think at the very least, we've all scrambled to adapt to this new normal that we're seeing and that we're trying to get used to. And especially here also, of course, at the ILO, that hasn't left us unaffected. And we've done a lot of work and thinking around how we can support and what we can do. And so I think it's no secret to say that most affected of this crisis have been micro, small and medium-sized enterprises and entrepreneurs. But at the same time, those are also the engines of job creation and the backbone of most economies. And so this is a really important segment and the biggest segment of most economies, as a lot of research shows. And the effects and the ripple effects of COVID, the economic consequences of lockdown measures, of disruptions to markets have been most pronounced on micro, small, medium-sized enterprises and entrepreneurs. And so as many others in the world, as all of you probably participating today, we at the ILO entrepreneurship team and at the training center in Turin have worked very hard to identify ways to support our constituents, our partner organizations, our trainer network for SIYB, and ultimately MSMEs and entrepreneurs in surviving and recovering from COVID-19 and the economic aftermath. And today, we want to take this time to talk about one such avenue, which is business management capacity training. And more specifically, we're mainly going to be talking about the Start and Improve Your Business training program and how we've been working on making it future ready through the introduction of ESIYB. And for me, there are really just two things I want to highlight because there will be others who will be speaking much more eloquently than I ever could about ESIYB and what we've been doing and why. But I want to just at this point highlight that this has truly been a one ILO effort. So this has only been possible with the support of 14 country, project and regional offices of the ILO. And it's really only also been possible with the collaboration with the International Training Center of the ILO in Turin. So at this point, also, again, a huge thank you to everyone who's been supporting us on transforming SIYB. The second point I want to highlight is there are no silver bullet solutions. I mean, the world has been completely transformed over the last months. The way we think about how we support MSMEs and entrepreneurs has changed. The viability of digital solutions has changed and has opened up new avenues. But that also means we're looking at a really complex scenario, a really uncertain future. And so there are no easy magic solutions. And SIYB is also not an easy magic solution, of course. What it is it can be one piece in a much bigger puzzle towards a holistic and MSME-centered economic recovery from COVID-19. And so that's what we're trying to show today is really how this one puzzle piece in a more comprehensive response package can be really an interesting, innovative, and effective way of supporting MSMEs and entrepreneurs to recover from the aftermath of COVID-19. Now, what is SIYB, you might ask? A very good question. So here, just a really, really brief introduction to the program. So the Start and Improve Your Business program is an entrepreneurship and management capacity training program that has 4 modules. So it's really a program that can accompany entrepreneurs and business creators and business owners, small business owners, on their journey of growing their business. So we start with the first module around generate your business ideas, so very early early stage, helping those who are looking to start a business, who have an idea, to refine that and to get closer to really turning that into a viable business idea. Then the start your business module, really looking at, well, how can I start up my business once I do have that business idea. And then finally, we move towards the later stage modules, improve your business, and then expand your business, which are really focused at helping small businesses, new businesses grow and expand their reach and their offering. So that just in a nutshell, we'll come back to that in a second as well. And as I've said, there are others who will speak much more about this topic. And I just quickly want to take a moment to introduce everyone. So first we'll have Merton Sievers, who is the Global Coordinator of the Value Chain Development and Entrepreneurship Program at the ILO and is a long-standing champion of the SIYB program at the ILO in Geneva. Give an overview of what we've been doing and why. Then we'll have Linda Dehlen, who is the Program Manager at the International Training Center at ILO in Turin, really present what are the SIYB tools. What have we actually been doing concretely, and show us sort of what that looks like in action. And then we'll have Mohan, an SIYB Master Trainer from Sri Lanka, who's joining us today to present what he's been doing and what his association in Sri Lanka have been doing around business continuity in combination with SIYB. And then Nelson, who is an SIYB trainer from Cap Vert, who will be talking to us around the implementation of the SIYB tools, how that's worked in practice, and combining that with other tools as well, such as business plan competitions. And finally, we have Ricardo, who will be talking to us about how he's been running SIYB training programs in South Africa and integrated those into a much bigger online platform that he developed. So a very interesting and diverse program, so we better get into it. All that's left for me now is 2 or 3 housekeeping issues. We can never quite do without them. So if you have questions, please ask them. There's a specific Q&A box. I've seen already some participants have already found it. Yeah, please post your questions there as we go along. We'll have a Q&A session at the very end, so there'll be an opportunity. We'll pick out a couple of questions. And if you do have any detailed questions around SIYB, Luana, who is working in the background to make this all happen, will also try to respond on the spot to those sort of more specific ad hoc questions. And if not, she'll get back to you later on after the webinar. We're also recording the webinar, so that'll be made available to you afterwards. So don't worry about the slides and taking notes, just lean back and enjoy. And then finally, we'll have a few poll questions running on the side, because we don't just want to talk, we also want to hear from you and understand a bit better who we're talking to. So keep an eye out for those. They'll also pop up in your window for you to answer, and then we'll discuss them later. And so actually we're going to jump straight into that. So before we hop on to the next presentation, we're going to start our first poll, which should pop up on your window screens in a second. So take a look. As a trainer or a business development service provider, have you seen any change in demand for business management trainings? Excellent. So I see that most people have already voted. So then what is left for me to do is to introduce Merton Sievers again. He's the Global Coordinator for Value Chain Development and Entrepreneurship at ILO. And please, Merton, take it away.
Thanks, Marlene. Yeah, welcome everybody. I'm so happy to have so many people here watching our little show. We hope to try to make it as entertaining as possible. Yeah, so I've been in the ILO for ages, and I originally introduced SIYB in Latin America in the mid-2000s, had been already in the ILO for some time, and then at some point took over the global coordinator position for SIYB, and then basically that position was made available to my team, and Marlene was on that seat for some time. So let me introduce you to how we came about doing SIYB during COVID. And maybe we can jump to the next slide. Most of you, or many of you, will know this image. This is basically the outreach in terms of countries, which are in dark blue, where we have active trainer networks, and in light blue, where SIYB has been introduced at some point. So we assume that at this point in time, and this is data from the 2015 Global Tracer Study, we had active trainer networks in about 100 countries, about 65,000 trainers, a bit more than 300 master trainers, 15 million end clients by the end of 2015, an estimated, really rough estimated 9 million jobs created, and 3,000 partner organizations, mainly BDS providers, down from large national institutions to small private BDS providers that are out there. What we're seeing in the last 5 years, and we're just finalizing now the next Global Tracer Study, is that the numbers have still grown quite massively. So Adriana, if you can just click once more. Yeah, so what we estimate right now, it's not totally final, but is that the final outreach number until end 2020 of SIYB in all its forms is above 23 million participants. So that's how SIYB looks globally. Most of you will know this as well. Basically, yeah, you can go to the next one, Adriana, thanks. In red on the left, you basically see how we're built into the ILO. In headquarters, we have the enterprise department. In that department, there's the SME unit and the inclusive markets and entrepreneurship team, in which you have the SIYB global coordinator and a few more people working on that. And then we have a network of ILO field offices, projects, the training center in Turin, that then support in one form or another the global network. And the global network you see on the right, basically depicted. You have a few master trainer developers, you have a good number of master trainers, you have several tens of thousands of trainers, and you have the final clients of the program. We can go to the next one, please. So what has happened during COVID-19? You all know it, you've all experienced it. Basically, the graph on the right side shows you a little bit kind of how many economies have gone into lockdown, or how much of the working population have been affected by lockdowns, which is close to 100% in different points in time. This goes until the end of September. Right now in Switzerland, we have gone again into a semi-lockdown. In many countries in Europe, they're going into a lockdown again. In other parts of the world, the situation might be improving. But who's affected this? With micro, small, and medium enterprises representing about 70% of global employment. At the same time, these very often depend on personal contacts, on selling on the street, on seeing their clients, on interacting with their clients in person. So very often these micro, small enterprises have actually been the hardest hit. So the workers in those enterprises, the entrepreneurs themselves, have hit by cash flow problems, by income reduction, and many other things. So for example, we did an ILO survey, and that found that 75% of SMEs were expecting a reduction in revenues during 2020. You can even see it on the street when you walk around. At least here, there's several small shops that are basically closing, where you see the places behind are empty because basically the units, the enterprises had to leave. In that kind of in that survey, we also asked a little bit what were the key issues. As you can imagine, you all work with enterprises, or many of you work with enterprises one form or another. Cash flow issues, financial issues are kind of a key issue, specifically if you have to pay your providers, your employees, all the need of things that you need to pay in a period that basically are regular expenses. Obviously, a lot of needs around prevention of infection. So how do you make sure that also your employees or your customers don't get affected in your enterprise or through your enterprise? And a big need for looking at business continuity. And here we think, obviously, SIYB is not the silver bullet to solve the issues around COVID, but what it is, it can deliver maybe some support to the enterprises that are out there. And we can come to the next one, please. So what are the challenges? Many governments have put in financial support programs, but many of them are not yet accessible. Also, we have to consider that a large part of these micro and small enterprises are in the informal economy. So often they tend to be excluded from these support mechanisms if these support mechanisms work well. So what we can offer in that scenario is basically just support and help in business continuity management and in micro and small enterprise resilience. So training can do basically a contribution to that. It could also help, for example, to redirect a business. Yeah. So if you're losing a certain market, maybe thinking about a different business idea that is associated to what you've been doing can help you survive the crisis, at least for some time. Let's go to the next one, please. So how do we boost MSME resilience and growth? So we found in SIYB, we've done a few randomized control trials, which is basically you have a group of people that are being trained and a group of people that you control over time that have very similar economic characteristics. And you look at how is this group behaving differently after training than this group? Does the training actually have an effect? And by basically randomizing these groups, you exclude statistically other effects that might happen, like the economic growth around them, etc. Next point, please. And the next one as well. What was done in an independent study from the ILO in Vietnam, Ghana, and Tanzania. This is a group of Japanese researchers mainly. What they did is they compared SIYB trained and non-trained enterprises using a randomized control trial. And how is this relevant for this situation is that if you look, for example, at the numbers that come out of Ghana, which is there in the middle, what they basically found is that if this is the treatment group and this is the control group, the metal sector in Ghana was in a crisis. Yeah, and so what happened basically is that the ones that had taken training were better prepared to be resilient and to have business survival than the ones that were in the control group. Yeah, while they had very similar economic characteristics, what you see is that the ones that have more tools for survival, more tools for understanding their internal management issues, they can make a better job at actually handling the crisis. Yeah, and so I think and this study is a few years old, but I think it's a strong indication that training can actually help these businesses to a certain extent in the crisis. We're not solving the cash flow problems. We might help with advice, etc. But this is just to show that we think that SIYB also in times of COVID has an important role to play. Let's go to the next one, please. So how do we then, so we find ourselves in that situation in March 2020, yeah? So lockdowns are starting massively throughout the world, and we have the training manuals, face-to-face training, very old program, has been around a lot of time. We've renewed the materials, but they're not available online, yeah? So you could obviously use a computer to train people, like in this situation, but you have very little tools to kind of make it more interesting so that people can self-study. You don't have things that work on mobile phones. You don't have things that work on different electronic devices. So what we come up with is a plan internal to the ILO where we use an innovative crowdfunding mechanism inside the ILO. We basically write to all our colleagues that are using SIYB and tell them, listen, we need to do something. Yeah, COVID is around. We don't have enough distance learning tools. We need to do something to actually make this available to our trainer network, to our master trainers. We have this fantastic network, and we need to do something so that they can at least partly operate during COVID times. And what then happens is been a nice experience for us, because basically ILO offices, ILO projects came on board very rapidly and said, yeah, this is also something we need to do. We need to react to the reality on the ground. So we're putting a few $1,000s into this. And then if you have 17 projects and offices contributing, that you get an amount that you can then tell your colleagues in the International Training Center, hey, we have we have some money here. Can we do business with you? Can we kind of jointly think through how this can be delivered? You have some experience in delivering at a distance. You are currently investing massively into developing new tools to do that effectively, because your own survival depends on this. So we start developing these tools together with the International Training Center and in consultation with a group of master trainers, with a group of ILO offices. And here they are. And so I think I'll stop there for Linda to show us a little bit. But over to you again, Marlene. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Martin. Excellent. Very interesting. Yeah, so thank you for this great introduction. We'll move over to Linda in a second, where she'll give us more of a deep dive into what was actually developed. But before that, just a really brief also interjection. So we are recording this, and you will have access to the recording and the slides. So again, please don't worry about that. There's also a question how many people are connected. Around 250 participants are currently listening in from all over the world. So that's really great to see. And then finally, I wanted to say we're going to now have our second poll that's going to pop up on your screen in a moment. So if you are a trainer or a business development service provider, were you able to continue delivering services to entrepreneurs and MSME during COVID-19? And you get several options. Oh, I already see people clicking. That's great. Excellent. And so we're going to discuss the results of those polls in just a moment. You're going to have to stay tuned a little bit. But before then, we'll have Linda Dillon, who is at the International Training Center in Turin, present to us all of the products and what SIYB actually looks like. Over to you, Linda.
Thank you, Marlon. Thank you, Merton, for that introduction, and nice to see you all. So what are these products? Basically, we digitalized what used to be the participants manual of Generate Your Business Idea, of Start Your Business, and of the 6 different modules of Improve Your Business. And all of these modules exist, as you can see on your screen, probably Start Your Business. Everything exists in English, Spanish, French, Portuguese, and Arabic. And then Improve Your Business, all 6 manuals or all 6 modules now exist in English, French, Spanish, and Portuguese. So I will show you in a second what these modules look like. They are self-guided training modules, but the idea here is not that people just go through those modules. The idea is still that in SIYB training, you need an SIYB trainer. And that your SIYB trainer uses these modules, but also combines that with whatever is a good delivery method in that specific situation. So a trainer can provide the modules to the trainees, but also do a series of webinars, provide personalized support to the trainees. There may be assignments, etc., etc. So the SIYB trainers and master trainers continue to be the core team in the SIYB family. It's just that with these modules, we hope that the training that they deliver online is a bit more engaging, more interesting. It's a tool for them to use, no? And we then recommend SIYB trainers to use the best platforms that they can think of besides those modules. And that can be webinars, that can be working with WhatsApp or Twitter, that can be doing podcasts. And we also have at the disposition of trainers an e-campus where all the modules are found together with the assignments, etc., etc. So there's many different ways of doing that, and we really encourage SIYB trainers to be as creative as possible, adapt their training to the context and to also the connectivity that participants have. No? and to maintain, of course, the quality standards of normal SIYB training delivery. So let me try to show a module here, and oh, I do have it open. Just a second. Let me close this. Voila, do you see that? So this is what Start Your Business online module looks like. And for those who know SIYB very well, this looks very familiar, right? It has all the units that you would normally go through in Start Your Business. Let me show you a little bit. It starts with an introduction here. That's a little slow. Here we go. An introduction as to what Start and Improve Your Business is about. Before you start, what do I find in this module? What will I learn? And then if you go down, it will give a little bit what you will find in this module, and it will present to you some of the main characters in Start Your Business. And many of you will already know John and Mary, right? They have an organic compost manure business, and most of you will know also Jane, the owner of Tosama clothes bags. As in the normal SIYB delivery, these are the characters that you will meet in these online modules. And the module will straight go into the business plan, why we need a business plan. And there are certain exercises there and certain certain quizzes as well. Huh? The whole thing about these modules is that they are, engaging you to think actively about the topics that are there. So for instance, here is a question: a business plan should be prepared to look for funding only. If you do not want to ask for funding, there is no need for a business plan. I will choose false, I will submit, and then I will get my feedback here, right? What is a business plan? It's an overview of products, it's this, it's that. And if I choose the wrong answer, I will also be told that I have chosen the wrong answer there. Where to find information for your business plan. And then here a map shows up with sort of pop-up little windows of where you could go if you want more information on your business plan. Now, and then the module goes to the next part, which is about entrepreneurial characteristics. And I think with all the people that are online, we are a little bit slow, but I should now go to Unit 2 on entrepreneurial characteristics. And I hope you're all following me, huh? So you want to go into business. Do you have what it takes to be successful? And then it gives here some entrepreneurial characteristics. And it will also tell you why John and Mary actually are people with entrepreneurial characteristics. Then it asks you to assess your own entrepreneurial characteristics. What are your areas of strength? And you can select them. How to strengthen your entrepreneurial characteristics, time to reflect. At the end of each unit, there's a little time to reflect about your own business. Huh? So that is what GYB and SYB look like. Now, let me also quickly share with you what the IYB modules look like, because they are indeed a little different. And I hope it is coming up and I hope you can see it. I was just opening the marketing module here. They look a little different from the GYB and the SYB modules, and that is because in IYB there are certain, I'm getting a little, oh, don't move too quickly. Okay, yeah. There are some interactions that are a bit more complicated in IYB. There's a lot of calculations to be done here and there. So here we opted for this layout. And in each module, you can see, first of all, what you will be learning. And if I continue.
Linda, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not very clear. So
No?
for many people seemingly can't see.
Oh.
So yeah, we need to, yeah, I mean, you're doing it well, but I just by reading it out. So maybe you want to describe what is to be seen very shortly, and then yeah.
That's a pity. Let me start by putting off my camera and see if that helps.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. It makes it hard to explain, but yeah, in IYB you are also taken by certain digital tutors through the different parts of the modules, and I'm trying to show to you the marketing module where there are certain interactions there, certain quizzes, certain games, certain calculations that need to be made, and every time you're asked to think about the different parts of the module. For those who are with me on the screen, for instance, now you see a little quiz. What to you is the correct definition of marketing? There are certain answers there. If you're in the module, you're asked to submit the right answer and you get feedback on that. Martin, is it still invisible what I'm showing, or is it a little better?
Much better.
It's much better. Oh, okay. Then it was the camera. Sorry about that. In this specific module, we go over the 7 P's of marketing, for instance: product, place, price, promotion, people, physical evidence, and process. And for instance, this part starts with a little exercise where you have to put the descriptions of the 7 P's to their corresponding place. Yeah, let me not take much longer, because I do think that connectivity is a little bit limiting. Also, maybe to say that there are some videos here, and let me just try to share, if that works, one of the little videos that we produced on pricing. And you tell me whether that works or not.
Bonjour, dans cette vidéo, je voudrais expliquer comment calculer le coût d'un produit ou d'un service. Nous allons prendre l'exemple d'une petite entreprise appelée City Garbage Recyclers, qui est dirigée par John et Mary. John et Mary vendent 2 produits différents. Du compost organique qu'ils vendent en sac de 20 kg.
So those are little videos about pricing, and I showed them in French, but they exist in all of the languages. And for most of the SIYB trainers, again, they will look very familiar, because this is based on the SYB exercises of how to do pricing. Yeah, I think let me stop there. And as you saw in the beginning, it's a lot of web links actually that are there, which are freely available to master trainers and to trainers to use them. as you noticed, we have opted to make them available to actually anybody who has the link, as much as the trainees manual are also publicly available on the website. So they are not hidden. You don't need to register to get access to them. And it's really the idea that they are used as much as possible. But as I said, in the context of SIYB training that is delivered by certified SIYB trainers. So thank you, Marlon, and sorry for the technical hiccups. I hope you still had a bit of an idea of what it looks like.
Thanks so much, Linda. I think that was perfect. And I think with 260 participants online, it is sort of stretching the limits of Zoom. But towards the end, for me at least, everything was very clear. And I also want to reiterate to all the trainers and master trainers who were maybe struggling to see, please log into the SIYB gateway and you can click on the links and go through all of this material yourself and check. So not to worry there, this is nothing secret, it's out there and you can access it. So please do take the chance. And then if you have any questions, then yeah, Luana is already answering them in the Q&A box. So feel free to post there as well. So that now brings us to our poll results. Really interesting. So I think the results should pop up on your screen in a moment. So thanks everyone for participating and giving us a bit of a better idea of who we're talking to here. So I think ideally now there should be a pop-up on one of the two questions. If you were a trainer or business development service provider, were you able to continue delivering services to entrepreneurs and MSMEs during COVID? And here we're seeing that there was actually a change, but most actually, well, first of all, it's great to see that actually most BDS providers and trainers, so you've been able to continue delivering training and services, but mainly in an online modality or in a combined online and in-person service delivery. So that's really interesting to see. I mean, that definitely resonates with what we've been seeing as well and what we've been hearing anecdotally. Just that there has been that transition, and hopefully, of course, SIYB and the tools that Linda just presented can help make that online delivery or that blended online in-person delivery engaging, interesting, innovative, and get the learning content across. For the first question you were asked, that should pop up as well in a second. Here we go. So that was what you answered just in the very beginning. So have you actually been able to continue? Oh, I think we need to switch back to the other one. Thanks, Joanna. Excellent. Have you been able to, has there been a change in demand in terms of business management training? And this is actually quite interesting to see, is that the demand seems to have increased for over 50%, or has changed more towards training on business resilience. That's really interesting to hear and to dig into a bit deeper. I think it would be quite interesting to hear maybe from a few persons, if we do have the time later in the Q&A session as well, on how that change towards training on business resilience and that increase in demand has manifested, and how that's changed sort of the way that you've delivered your services potentially as well. So thanks for that. I think that really leads us quite smoothly over into our panelist presentations. Because seeing that there has been around the world a change in demand towards training on business resilience, I think the next presentation is going to be quite interesting. So we'll have Mohan from the SIYB Association of Sri Lanka presenting to us actually what the SIYB Association has been doing in the very first moments of COVID. So in those early moments in February, March, April, when SIYB was still sort of just in our heads and we were trying to develop this. He actually sort of developed quite a bit of work on business continuity training and adapted to service delivery. So Mohan, over to you. Welcome and thank you.
Yes, thank you, Marlene. Thank you very much. And also nice to see you all at this session. It is some experience from Sri Lanka about our intervention to support SMEs for the continuity of their business during new new normal COVID-19 outbreak. Kindly see some statistics in my first slide. Can you please move to the next slide? To understand the background of the SME sector in Sri Lanka. Okay, I hope you can hear me. Yes, could you please go to the next slide, please? Okay. Okay, the contribution of the GDP is actually 2%, and the SME 45% of the global opportunities in the country. Actually, it shows that SMEs play a major role of the country in the, especially in the country economy. And now, see some impact of the COVID outbreak. So actually, it's made to the sector like you can see that 62% of the micro scale enterprises, and also 71% of the smaller scale enterprises, and also 71% of the large enterprises, and also 31% of the medium scale enterprises, as per the history of the International Trade Center conducted during the COVID-19 first outbreak, because now we are in the second outbreak, right? So we have a database of SMEs that association delivered its services with support of its partner organizations. So we collected data directly from our SMEs and collected secondary data from the studies conducted recently. Accordingly, we identified the following key issues faced by the SMEs. So especially the first issue is actually the crucial issue is the cash flow issue. As Merton mentioned, they had issues of collecting debts and realization of debt checks, and also difficulty of pay for supplies and cover overhead expenses of their operations and paying salaries to staff. And secondly, the employment issues. Due to the disruption of the travel, people could not access to for work. It severely affected to the scale of operations of the SMEs. Thirdly, disruption of the supply chain. So SMEs could not purchase sufficient raw materials and other services, and also access to other services up to their operations. Thirdly, disruption of the market linkages. So as you all know that the normal market channels did not function in an huge collapse of demand for certain products and services in Sri Lanka, such as tourism sector, hospitality, and entertainment sector, and also furniture industry due to the change of the priority of the people. And as a national level BDS provider, SIYB Association of Sri Lanka, with its partner organization and the resource team like SIYB trainers and the master trainers, we intervene to address those issues by implementing following key activities. The first one is disseminate information of the government subsidies, loan schemes, debt moratorium services, and cash grants, so that access SMEs for these facilities and resolve their financial constraints. Especially the government allocated Sri Lankan rupees 50 billion to provide such kind of services. Then we wanted to make the people aware to how to access these kind of facilities from the relevant authorities. The next one, actually we conducted awareness program, how to manage cash flow effectively during the crisis situation, and motivated them for going insurance scheme, and also motivate them to keep a buffer savings with them, their SMEs, when they face into a crisis like this, they can utilize for them. And also the nextly we motivate SMEs for potential product diversification, such as making and delivering of sanitizers and production of face masks, delivery of food items from door to door, and cultivating their lands. So especially in this during this COVID cases, most of the face masks and sanitizer we imported from China. Because of the disruption of the export and import, there is a huge demand for such kind of products in Sri Lanka. So, and also finally we conducted awareness program on e-commerce to transform their marketing strategies from general marketing to digital marketing. So, however, though we conducted such kind of services for the business continuity, so most of we actually face some challenges when we are conducting these virtual training programs. The first one is actually, though we made them aware of the government's subsidies, those are not properly channeled to the ground level. So once we make them aware to channel those things, but in the ground level, they were in a bit difficult to access those things. The secondly, the most of SMEs are not familiar with online learning methods. So this is a new thing. This is strange for them. So it is very difficult for them to get used to this online learning methods. And thirdly, lack of IT knowledge of the SMEs going for online marketing strategies. So though we conducted some several training, so most of SMEs are very weak on knowledge of the information technology services. So, secondly, the challenges with internet speed and the continuity issues, especially the SMEs from rural sector, and also unavailable appropriate equipment. You know that once you go to the rural sector, the internet strength is not much very speed, so it is very difficult to access to the learning port. So that is one of the challenge we faced. And also, some of the SMEs are not ready to link with the online training because they do not see that it is priority at this crisis situation, because they are struggling for some other things. They don't see that this is not a priority thing to attend to the training like this. So those are some experience and examples from conducting online business continuity training from Sri Lanka in a nutshell. So if you have some more information, some more clarification, so we have question and answer sessions. So I would like to be there to share more experience at that time. So thank you very much for your attention and also giving me the opportunity to offer this presentation. So thank you so much. Marlene, to you, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mohan, for this interesting insight into how you really quickly adapted your services, rethought sort of what was needed at that moment and responded to the needs of MSMEs and entrepreneurs in Sri Lanka. This was really interesting. I'm seeing a lot of questions pouring in the Q&A box. So we'll definitely try to pick out a couple and get around to those in the Q&A. So now moving on, we have a second sort of insight there's from SIYB trainer Nelson, who is based in Cap Vert, and he's going to talk about how the SIYB community, the SIYB trainer community, has been implementing eSIYB in combination with other tools such as business plan competitions. Nelson, over to you.
Yes, thank you so much, Marlene. I think we need to activate my video, or perhaps it's not necessary. Adriana, I'm going to tell you when to change the slides, okay? The first slide is just to show you where Cape Verde actually is. You see the circle in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, West Africa. The closest country is Senegal at 400 kilometers. Adriana? So what is our story? Now you can see the islands. We zoom in and we can see the islands. I'm going to tell you our story by 3 words. The first word is change. The second one, usefulness. And the third one, inclusion. And I'm going to explain why I have chosen these 3 words. We're going to start by change. Adriana. So I'm from South Island. It's one of the islands at the right top corner. The main activity was tourism. So the island has only 40,000 inhabitants, plus 10,000 floating population tourists that come and go every week. And it counts for 20% of the national GDP and 40% of the country's export. And it has the lowest unemployment rate in the country. So from 1 week to another, we got the airport closed, and it's closed since 7 months. 10,000 people lost their job, and the population now is shrinked by 5,000. So only 35 6,000 people live now in the island, and there's no other source of income but tourism. And now we have the highest unemployment rate in the country. We can, Adriana, and why we talk about SIYB? Because it became part of the solution. You know, when you have these big changes, it's not only in Cape Verde, but for all over the world, some windows of opportunity also open. And as SIYB, the platform, the digital platform, was a very good thing for us because we were able to use it to keep training, because now more young people need to create their own business because there's no unemployment. The employment rate is very high. The hotels are closed, so they need to find options for to feed their families, you know. So these two, the tools we got from SIYB are very interesting, very useful. The design is very light, very user-friendly, and it's in Portuguese. Sometimes the most difficult is to get this kind of tool in Portuguese, but you've seen we have in English, French, Portuguese, and Arabic, and Spanish. So it's very, very good when we can have this kind of tool in Portuguese, because we are a Portuguese-speaking country. And we've just used this last 3 months. We are using the online platform for SIYB. Adriana, you can change the slide, because there's this international event. I think the same happens in other countries, the Startup Challenge. And this year, the organizer decided to go with SIYB for different phases. So for this national competition, we had 283 young people enrolled. And from these 283, there was a first phase of first selection, and 174 went through the GYB, Generate Your Business Idea, and then 150 in the Start Your Business. So they use it to have their business plans. And at the end, we now have 134 business plans. And this week, next week, we're gonna have the final selection of 10 young people to go to the finals. And among these people, 69 are girls and 65 are young boys. So this to talk you about usefulness. So this platform, this online platform, was very, very important for us. Adriana, you can change. And the last slide is inclusion. Why is inclusion? Because now, as our master trainers, we can have people from different islands in our rooms. Last week, a trainer, SIYB trainer, told me, Nelson, it's amazing. I got people from 3 islands, for 4 islands in my room. For you, perhaps it's not. It doesn't mean big, but for us, when there's an event, a training, it happens mostly at the capital, the biggest islands. So the small island don't have access, don't have the same opportunities. So this platform meant to us that all islands can have the same opportunities. And very interesting, when in my classroom I can have people from all islands. And that's the story I'd like to tell you about Cape Verde and how did we use SIYB. Thank you. Last slide, Adriana. Adriana, and that's it.
Great, thank you so much, Nelson. Thanks for that interesting introduction. I'm sure there'll be quite a few more questions to hear about the link between that business plan competition and the SIYB trainings and how that worked. I'm definitely curious about that, so we'll try to come back to that in the Q&A. Thanks so much for the Q&A. Thanks so much for your intervention. Really interesting work, and congratulations.
Thank you.
So, and then for our last speaker, before we move to our Q&A, we have Ricardo joining us from South Africa. And Ricardo is going to talk about how he's been integrating the SIYB tools into a bigger and more comprehensive online platform that he built. which is a very interesting, I think also a very different example of how SIYB can be used to strengthen SIYB trainings according to the local and regional needs. So Ricardo, welcome.
Thanks so much, Marlon, and good afternoon, all colleagues. Next slide, Adriana. So I'm quite excited to share with you as well the South African context and exactly how we were able to make use of the SIYB package. So just to contextualize things slightly, in South Africa, we have over 5 million MSMEs, and most of them located in the informal sector. And it is no surprise that these are also the major contributors to GDP, but also to job creation, both now and in the future. Next slide. So our focus group is really that huge chasm in between the informal and small sector. And as characterized, as you can see on the screen there, in terms of the number of jobs created, etc., I think just to amplify as well, this is also the most vulnerable, constituency to work with as well. And with our COVID hard lockdown of 3 to 4 months, it has really decimated a large percentage of these enterprises as well. Next slide. So we actually have been quite busy on working on a platform for about the period November, December last year already. But our ambitions were really more around us pivoting our SIYB offering to reach previously unreached audiences, with both rural penetration as one of our primary objectives, but also targeting township entrepreneurs as well as the student entrepreneurship body as well. So we were actually at great lengths already in terms of developing a platform. And when I approached our local ILO offices with the thought around adaptation, it was exciting to hear that there actually was a global event happening as well. And hence it was easy for us to actually look at integration and collaboration from the get-go. So when COVID hit and our lockdown was, effected in March this year, the platform we already had actually became quite useful because it then became easy for us to actually integrate and launch just in time. Next slide, please, Adriana. So this is essentially the landing page. We've actually housed the learning platform within my website, smallbusiness.co.za. And as you can see in the top left corner there, this is one of the offerings we have, the SIYB package. Next slide, please. So essentially, any entrepreneur is able to navigate through the website as a click-through and then select the SIYB. The registration is automated, and we then email them an enrollment key which they can use to participate in the program. So I hope you can see the screen clearly in terms of the quality of the font there, but you see the interactive nature of the actual platform. We have housed this within a Moodle platform, and specifically because of the ease of use and the universal access available on Moodle. So we've mirrored really the same look and feel as is found in the SIYB manual, but also as found in the SIYB package. And we've made all of these panels interactive. So if you look on the screen, you can clearly see that you can click on any of the links. It gives you an overview of the module, and you can then actually deep dive into the actual content. This is sequentially based, so you can't jump ahead to costing until you've actually completed the first few modules. So we pride ourselves in the quality of the presentation as well, and we made sure not to skimp on the actual quality of the program. Next slide, please, Adriana. So we've also built in some sort of features, and this is the luxury of using Moodle, where we also have the ability to use the audio or voice functionality to support our visually impaired participants as well. So as they navigate through, they can click on the link and they can actually hear the audio. We also found that many who are not visually impaired also enjoy this as a reinforcement and to actually almost simulate the classroom type environment to have the voice speaking as they navigate through the slides. At the bottom, you'll see the forward-backward arrows so they can continuously navigate through this. And we also ensure that they don't skip any parts because we can view that on the back end of the Moodle learner management system. Next slide, please, Adriana. So just to give you a bit of a what we actually have, we've embedded all of the tools. So it's also interactive. So the participant has the option of either downloading the full PDF version to work through, or they are able to actually complete editable forms within the learner platform and submit that for moderation by the facilitator. So we have the back end SIYB certified facilitators who's able to guide and assist the learner in navigating their way through the program. Next slide, Adriana. So we also try to inculcate a sort of multi-mode platform for learning. So if you see on the screen there, we actually have continuously reminded them to use the SIYB manual as a reference point or the eSIYB tools as a reference point. But we also built in a number of localized video clips as well, so that they can be more contextual and relatable for local audiences. And we found that many of the participants actually enjoy working through the video content as well. As soon as we heard about the advancements as well on the eSIYB side with regard to video content, we also incorporated a lot of that onto the platform as well to really build a robust and informative platform. And then very important, at the bottom of the screen, you can see the Zoom link as well. So as mentioned earlier by Marlon and others, we obviously enforce that there must be facilitator involvement. So the facilitator plays a pivotal role in having multiple touch points where they actually engage in these virtual classrooms via Zoom or Teams and facilitate the actual content or debunk any content that might be confusing or which may still be something that the learner does not understand. Thanks, Ariana. Next slide. So what worked, just in terms of a summary, it was a well-timed solution. It was fortuitous that we actually had the platform ready at the time. So the integration was quite easy to build in the eSIYB content onto our existing learner management program. We had high levels of interest from the SME sector, and the seamless integration of the eSIYB content obviously made it easy for us to actually have a trial version ready for viewing. We also found that facilitators were actually quite excited about the seamless adaptation to actually use the content, because what they were looking for was actually to have a learner management system as well as the the eSIYB content to be able to provide a full virtual classroom session. And the ability for us to actually infuse localized and contextual content also made it quite exciting. And participants, facilitators, SIYB trainers, could also incorporate their own learning in their Zoom sessions as well. For me, it was exciting actually to be able to reach geographic areas I never imagined I would. I've got people from rural areas now using the program, which I never imagined would be part or would have had access to the program. And this has been quite exciting for us. So what's the next steps, Adriana? What's next? So the next steps is now for us to revise the revenue model. At the moment, we are running this as a freemium offering. And this is aligned obviously to the Entrepreneurship Month, November. So the first 2 weeks of this month, we've actually launched this to be available at no cost. So we can actually have entrepreneurs go and rigor test the beta version of our offering, and to give us feedback as well in terms of how we could improve and enhance the offering. We also need to desperately seek platforms that can be zero rated, so we can make it more accessible to youth who can't afford the cost of data. In our estimations, we've had data diaries used by our participants so far, so we can judge how much data is actually used. And we have found that it costs about probably between 15 and 20 US dollars, in our sort of localized sort of data costs for them to work through the entire program as well as participate in all of the video content as well. We also want to explore RTOTs, refresher training of trainers, to really get our facilitators throughout the country equipped and able to use the virtual learning platform and to enhance the use of the eSIYB package and to build in more touch points to reduce the attrition. I've given you some numbers there just to show you the actual attrition. From 101 applications, we only had about 36 who actually goes through to full completion. So these are some of the feedback we receive, which helps us to continuously improve. Next steps for us now is to take the IYB modules which have been developed and to launch those onto our platform as well, and to really take this to scale. Colleagues, eSIYB is here to stay, and we are excited to be part of this program and to showcase what can be done if we think creatively as master trainers and SIYB trainers. Last slide. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Ricardo. Thank you. Such an interesting illustration of what can be done. And I think your lessons learned and your best practices that you've just distilled there are going to be really, really helpful to others in other regions and other contexts as they start implementing eSIYB. So thanks so much for presenting this today. So we're coming to our question and answer part of this webinar, and the Q&A box has been active and live, and I've been reading through and skimming. So I just quickly want to take the opportunity to answer really briefly a couple of questions that have popped up again and again in the Q&A box before we then move to some of the more challenging questions that I'll hand back over to the panelists and the other speakers. So one question was around translating the modules. Yes, the modules can be translated. They've been specifically designed to make it easy and possible to translate them. There is a little bit of technical work involved, but that can be discussed kind of more bilaterally, but it is possible to do translations. Another question was around the role of the trainer. And so this is, again, we've highlighted this in the beginning, but just in case there is now confusion, these tools are designed to help SIYB trainers and master trainers deliver innovative, interesting SIYB trainings. So they're not meant to replace an SIYB training, but they're meant to enhance SIYB trainings. So the role of the trainer stays the same. The SIYB trainings stay led by trainers, whether that's in person as a training or whether that's through a video conferencing modality. It still remains the same training, it still remains the same structure. The SIYB manuals are still the core documents alongside which SIYB trainings are structured. And these eSIYB tools are simply an offer to the trainers, the partner organizations, and so on to be incorporated, as our three speakers have just shown, in terms of how that's possible, and that's possible in very different ways. We also do have some complementary offerings that we've developed. So the International Training Center in Turin is offering an online training on delivering online trainings. So if there are partner organizations, master trainers, and trainers that are interested in that, then that's an option to strengthen the capacity on delivering online trainings. And we also have developed a really short guide on using eSIYB, which is on our website. So maybe check that out as well, because I think that'll answer quite a few questions that are in the Q&A. And finally, there was a question around doing training of trainers online. That's quite tricky, and we don't have tools for that yet. So please do get in touch with the SIYB team on that specifically to discuss further, and then we can see how we can figure something out for that. But with that, I mean, those are just sort of some of the questions that were repeated again and again in the Q&A. I do want to take the last 5 minutes we have to pose a question or two also to our speakers. And one question that was really interesting from Hideki that came in, that was asking around, a lot of the digital tools are being offered to MSMEs, young people and entrepreneurs who are already digitally quite savvy and who know how to use online tools, who are familiar with online trainings, and then this could work quite well. But what about youth, MSMEs, entrepreneurs who are not so digitally savvy, so who don't have the skill or the experience with online trainings, or might be a bit hesitant to engage with that? So who are we maybe not reaching, or how do we reach some of those more difficult to reach population groups with eSIYB or with other digital means? So I'm throwing this question back to our panelists. I don't know if there's any volunteer. I think Ricardo, do you wanna start off, and then maybe Linda, you come in as well. I'm just looking at who's turning on their screens.
Thanks, Marlene. Just to respond, I mean, in South Africa specifically, we actually have targeted youth entrepreneurs as one of our pivotal audiences. We also have one of our partner organizations on the call this afternoon from the National Youth Development Agency, where they have actually mainstreamed the use of the SIYB program within the agency as a mechanism to support entrepreneurship development within young people as a career alternative. So we have had a very different experience locally, where it does not seem as if the digital uptake is actually compromised with the youth sector, but is actually quite advanced. We have found quite a bit of excitement in young people to actually participate through virtual offerings as well. So it could also be a contextual experience, obviously, but in the South African context, we have found quite a big uptake by youth MSMEs.
Excellent, thank you. Linda, did you want to add to that as well?
Well, it's more interesting to hear from the master trainers, but now here I think we have been very amazed by the uptake of digital training. And of course, in the beginning we heard, no, your participants are not going to have the connectivity, they don't have the equipment, they don't know how to do it. And then, you know, we have training courses with 30, 40, 50 people in Somalia, for instance, or you know, in places where you would think, well, connectivity may be a problem. Everybody's there, everybody's participating, younger people, elder people. Of course, there are problems, but I do think, you know, people are understanding that this is the future. It's also a step to digitalization of the enterprise, you know, understanding digital technologies. So our experience has been positive. And apart from that, I do think a lot of the trainers and master trainers have been experimenting with simpler tools like WhatsApp and Twitter to reach their participants. And I think we should maybe start also to collect a little bit these experiences and then disseminate them again to the network so that everybody knows the different possibilities.
Absolutely, very much agreed. Yes, Merton, please.
Yeah, I wanted to, because there were so many questions around kind of how do we do it, kind of how many hours per day, etc. I think Linda could also speak to that. There is obviously a big difference with online training. Say you do this here on Zoom or with face-to-face training. So we've been asked also by trainers and master trainers in Latin America about how much time per day and all these things. And I must admit that we rely on you. I mean, rely on the network of trainers and master trainers out there to also provide that feedback to us, because we can share experiences, we can help you, we can hopefully next year, if we have enough experience, also develop something that is more structured, a guidance document on what can be done when you're training entrepreneurs, when you're trying maybe to have parts of the online of the training certification of trainers also online. So we're trying to, please get in touch with us. Please share your experiences. This is, I see this very much as a joint responsibility, because we're a small team. We're working as much as we can on trying to make these tools available. But there's many things that are not yet defined or clear, and we're very keen to get your feedback on what works and what doesn't. Maybe the final word on the, do we enable with this businesses to go digital? I think the tools are not specifically designed for e-commerce or for kind of starting up a digital business that would really help. But we are definitely looking into those options as well. There's an e-commerce program, for example, developed by the China Entrepreneurship Program, which used to be SIYB China, that we're trying to see whether it is useful and can be adapted to online issues. But again, here we rely on you as also innovation providers in the network, because I think there's so much power and capacity in this network that we all can benefit from, and we'd be happy to try to set up something like this again to share further experiences in a few months from now, because I think there's many things happening that we're hearing about that are worth sharing.
Thanks so much. Excellent. So I know we're nearly out of time. I did want to ask one final question that popped up in the Q&A box just now, which was, what has been the feedback? It'd be really interesting to hear, Ricardo, Nelson, from rolling out those SIYB tools, obviously to MSMEs who are trying to keep afloat, who are trying to make it through these COVID lockdowns, through the economic downturn. How have you received sort of any feedback also in comparison to regular SIYB trainings? How has this impacted the way that they've been able to adapt their business operations? Yeah, if you could just share a snippet or two of what you've seen, that would be great. Yeah, Nelson, please go for it.
Yes, the SIYB, so the training, the online training, is not widely used. It's small numbers, but the feedback is very good. So when people try it, and they had the same problems at the beginning, same idea that it would be very difficult with connections. But when you really want that because we have training centers around the islands, and these training centers, they have connections, so people go to those training centers and can have this online SIYB. So at the beginning is not widely used, but every time we use it, the trainers and even the participants are very happy, and we get to the results. So it's very good. It's a very good tool.
Marlon, the feedback has been great. I think at two levels. First of all, the immediacy for them to be able to participate almost immediately. What often happened was, especially with some of the agencies that offers the program, participants had to wait until they actually had an event for them to participate in those sort of training interventions. Now with the online offering, obviously they're able to participate, as soon as they are ready to enroll. So that has been the one positive. Secondly, also the other positive feedback we've received as well has been around the flexibility. So they can obviously do this in the evenings when they've completed their daily grind in terms of running their businesses, managing their family needs. So the flexibility element has come across as a very strong positive feedback. And let's also give the negative feedback. I think, as mentioned, the cost of data has been one of the issues. So this is why we had quite a big attrition rate where they start the program, but they drop off because they just don't have the funds to actually see it through to completion. So that has been basically the three top elements I'd like to share.
That's super interesting. Thank you, Ricardo and Nelson. That's great to hear. I think the data issue is certainly one that resonates in many contexts and is one to think about. Some of the ESLE content can also be downloaded. Linda will correct me if I'm wrong on that. And there are also lower tech solutions that are coming out. So again, as Martin has said, we really rely on your creativity, and it's been incredible what's already reached us. So yeah, please do keep us in the loop on what you develop and how you adapt. I'm not sure if any of our speakers would like to add anything at this point. Linda, Merton, any final points?
Well, there's a lot of questions about the business game, huh? And that is the one thing that we have pending. It's not easy to digitalize that, and I know it's a very important tool in your SIYB deliveries. So we haven't given it up. I think we need to give it some more thought on how we do that. For the moment, it's not available.
Yeah, I think so. The question is, I don't think we should try to replicate it one-on-one, the business game. But so the question for us has been a little bit kind of, how do we replicate some of the contents in maybe shorter games and something that you can actually do easily online? There could obviously also be group exercises built in with some moderation from trainers, which I think is also a nice combination for us, because we have all these capacities installed. There's all of you out there, all the trainers, all the master trainers, and so what we're trying to do is really also provide tools that that you can use, that are not self-learning, but that you can use in an interactive format. But yeah, we need to put our heads together to kind of do more on that. And yeah, thanks for everybody for coming and looking at this, and the panelists. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, no, agreed. So all that remains for me is also to say thank you so much for participating, for listening. Thank you to our speakers and our panelists for sharing their experiences and being here. And also a big thank you to everyone who is so engaged in the chat and in the Q&A and in the poll. I mean, this is what makes this really fun. So great. And I do hope you took something from it. And you see on the screen is our website link. So this is really where anything new, any news also around ESIYB, but anything else will be posted. We'll also post a recording of the webinar there, so you can always go back to it. And then we also have the SIYB email address. So yeah, if there are any specific questions on some of the modules, how you access the gateway and these things, then yeah, that's where you can write to. And then finally, most importantly, I want to say a big thank you to the people who've made this work in the background, because even though this might
see them
seamless, I hope that we can see them. So Luana, who's really the brains behind all of this, there she is. A huge thank you for putting this together, making this happen and so seamlessly. So yeah, if there was an opportunity to give applause, this would be it. Unfortunately, yeah, it'll have to be in the chat box, but thank you, Luana, truly, from all of us. And also Adriana, who's jumped in at the last minute to help us go through the slides and make the final execution happen. So thank you to all of you for your passion and motivation and engagement today and generally in the SIYB program. I hope this was helpful, and we look forward to taking this forward and continuing to innovate and make SIYB future ready. So with that, thanks so much, and we'll hopefully see you sometime soon. Bye.
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 Bye, everybody.
Thanks so much. Goodbye.